and if the planet is on a collision course with some kind of terminal crisis. It seems to me, then, that nature is struggling to right this disequilibrated planetary ecosystem. So in a sense, there is nothing to be done except to watch and wait. But on the other hand, we are not apart from nature. We are, in some sense, a portion of nature which is the most reactive and energetic, because we are reactive and energetic in the domain of epigenetic codes. We can foment rapid change. Until recently, it was a truism of thinking about society that all change had to be gradual. This myth has now been exploded. We know that, you just take them all out and hang them, and then that's not gradual, and then you've got a new world. And this has been done in several places with excellent success recently.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You having a nightmare? What if it's true?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Alan, it's a possibility, isn't it?
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Secrets.
In a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers,
Constant, extreme danger,
which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger,
extreme danger,
that an announced need for increased security.
What the hell is going on?
This is Conspiracy Queries with Alan Hart.
Will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
You're crazy.
And no officious, high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes.
Isn't the Pentagon suspicious that all the buildings blow up?
Or to withhold from the press and the public
I think you're just looking at things for the first time.
the facts they deserve to know.
You've had your whole fucking life to think things over. What good's a few minutes more gonna do you now?
The facts they deserve to know. They deserve to know. Deserve to know. Deserve to know.
You're listening to Green Crush. This is episode number 52. Conspiracy Queries, episode number 124.
Facts they deserve to know.
Okay. Boom! Okay, welcome to the show. How's it going? What kind of week are you having? Mine is transformative. Is that a good thing? I always thought they should maybe change the meaning of the word transformative. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. I can't even keep up anymore. I'm happy to admit it. I used to be on top of things, or I thought I was. Now I realize I'm not on top of anything. I'm on top of this stool. I'm sitting here at our studios at the fantastic 234 King Street East in Toronto in the Pacific Junction Hotel, doing another episode of Green Crush, and this is a special episode. We've already had our year anniversary special. I didn't name it as such, but we started in July of 2017, and we have been doing pretty much a show a week. I guess we've got about 55 or 6 or so shows done. 55 shows. This will be 55 shows done today. Over a year, which is pretty good, right? It's pretty good to do that every week, even just to be dedicated enough to bring a show forth. Never mind a show that's packed as we are. Green Crush is filled with meaning and import. Does that sound haughty and pompous? Well, I wouldn't be here talking about it if it wasn't true. If it weren't true, for all the grammarians out there. So, yeah, Green Crush, what is that? Is this your first episode listening to this? Oh, okay. Well, thanks for coming on board, and you might want to scroll back a few episodes to understand that green is meant to be cannabis, and crush is what it can do to cancer and other medical problems, despite the fact that a lot of reporters won't tell you things like that, and they'll say a lot of there's no research to show this. We don't have enough research, they'll tell you. Okay. I guess they don't have calendars either. THC was identified by an Israeli researcher named Raphael Meshulam, okay, in 1963. That's like 55 years ago, okay? So figure that out. Figure out that these people are lying about what... I mean, ask yourself the question, how can they tell you it's dangerous, and at the same time say, well, we don't know what's in there. We have to be careful. We don't know what's going on. Well, or it's dangerous. It's one or the other. You can't have both. But what we can't have, unfortunately, is a continuing show. This could be. We're going down the stretch. Now, I've always hated PBS pledge drives, so thankfully I'm not on PBS because this is also a pledge drive. If this was a PBS pledge drive, I'd hate myself, but it's only a pledge drive for this show, so I'm okay with that. We're trying to get people aware of this show. We've been doing it for a year now. And if you're really, really sick and messed up, I can promise you that if you go back and listen to a lot of these episodes, yeah, you'll laugh sometimes here and there. You'll be entertained here and there. But you can also find the blueprint to get yourself out of a terminal diagnosis. It can be done. You're not allowed to say that. Yeah, well, it's true. Sick and tired of not being able to say what's true because it might upset someone. Could upset the feelings of a doctor, or could upset the feelings of someone who makes a lot of money because he's deeply invested into a financial institution that, or perhaps what did I mean by that? Is a drug institution, you know, like a moneymaker. It could be offensive to tell someone about cannabis and how good it is if you make money from a product that is known as a pharmaceutical that's supposed to do something better for you than cannabis can do. Well, that's ridiculous. Because this show has shown us all, and I mean, I can't even believe all the research. I'll pull out a random one once in a while and listen to it. I can't listen to them right after I do one, but I will listen to it eventually, and I've heard some incredible things for the first time, but actually the second time, because obviously I was doing the show in the first place when the great guest, and we've had loads, have dropped, cluster bombed us with truth on this show. And unfortunately, our requests and asking people of the mainstream to come on, I know a CBC reporter doesn't want to do it. You know, he's afraid of his job or whatever, and going away to talk about this. Which is pretty amazing when you understand we're talking about a legal, or soon to be legal in Canada anyway, legalized, which is, you know, this should tell you that it's not really legalized at all. But we do have a lot of things to talk about, and we will be learning things today, because I wouldn't want to come here if we weren't. I mean, we want to learn something all the time, and so we're going to bring Paul Hartmann on, and he is a guest today. He's a guest. Is he a guest or is he a sidekick? He's part of the show. So Paul and I are going to have a conversation. We had another Paul booked for the show a couple of weeks ago. Couldn't do it, and then once again, unfortunately, Paul Flynn in England. He's a Labour MP, 82-year-old cannabis advocate, and unfortunately today he's not feeling well. So we will proceed without him, and we will get him back later on. Paul's telling me that he is a frog today. That's nice. Okay. I don't know what that means. Maybe he can't talk. I hope that's not it. All right. So what else do we have to cover? A bit of business, some things we have to do to get stuff out of the way. Now, I know you guys are listening, and I will be asking you to go to at Green Crush Pod and contact us there. Find out where we are. I'm also going to highlight a particular clip. A particular location on the web right here. Patron. Yeah, we have a Patron account. Patron is, if you like something, you can kick in like half of the cost of a cup of coffee that you buy. You know, $5 worth of coffee. Drink it, throw away the cup. That's it. How about $2? And $2, and we can keep this show going. And Paul's sending me things now. I don't know why Paul's sending me little pictures, man. I don't know. He's obviously got something up his sleeve. We'll get to him shortly. Patron.podbean.com/greencrushpod. That's where we can be found. Patron, patron.podbean, podbean.com/greencrushpod. What we're asking for is support. So we have the great support network of the Eggplant Studios. Here we are at King Street East in Toronto, near Sherbourne downtown. Live show. We have a lot of live shows coming out of this studio. But this particular show needs some help. We've been doing this, three of us, for a year, and we're pretty much down the stretch now. I'm kind of comfortable to flip it off and flip it on. Put it this way, I want to keep doing the show, and I want to keep bringing it forward, but here's the snag. It's difficult to do that with $0. It's difficult to do anything with $0, but putting on a show, putting on this information, gathering it, coming downtown, organizing it, delivering it to you, making long-distance phone calls sometime. Anyway, you know all that stuff. So I'm really just asking for it now. I'm asking for some help in the listeners who understand that we have been bringing something of worth, and not just giving away fantastic prizes, which we also have been doing. But this is kind. All right, okay, get to the point. All right, okay. Here's an ad. I got interrupted there. Hang on. Toronto's Hemp and Cannabis Expo is September 15th and 16th at Exhibition Place. The madness of the roller coasters will be gone by then, and it's the Hemp and Cannabis Expo taking over Exhibition Place in Toronto. Paul, our guest today, Paul Hartmann, and myself, both speaking on both days, Saturday and Sunday, live in person. Paul and I will be... Paul's amazing to listen to because he knows so much of the technical aspect of cannabis growing. He's a master grower. He knows what he's doing with these things, and including mushrooms, which I'm sure we will also talk about, because pretty soon we're going to get to Blue Crush, right? Because we'll have to have some mushroom talk on the show. Spin it off into a mushroom segment. It's the same kind of thing in that it's a medical application of a naturally forming substance that has tons of research showing how fantastic it is, particularly at pain relief and depression relief, and non-addictive, I might add. And is he promoting illegal? Yeah, sort of. But it's okay, because I'm right about it. Alan and Paul guest speaking on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. And so visit us at our booth. It's booth 126. Booth 126. Green Crush and Grow Light. So we are co-boothing. Paul will be handling the Grow Light aspect. So this is GROLYT. Look that up. These are some fantastic lights. If you're interested in growing a cannabis plant, and if you're listening to this show, you should be. you really want to look into grow light lights because they're so efficient, and they're really nothing on your hydro bill, on your electricity bill. They're wonderful. Paul knows about it more than I do. We'll talk a little bit about it today. Not so much a commercial sense, but I'm technically fascinated. So we also have a contest to enter. Yeah. Let's tell them about the contest. All right. It is on our socials at Green Crush Pod. Okay, at Green Crush Pod. We are giving away 5 sets of 4 tickets between now and the event that Paul and I are going to speak at. I don't know if you can vouch for Saturday or Sunday specifically, but they'll tell you that later on when you get to it, to the show. Also, I really want to mention that we have a mini guest today. And by that, I mean we're not going to do a full 1-hour interview, but we do have a fascinating interview with a very wonderful young woman. She is 15 years old, and her name is, she's an Ottawa gal. She lives in Ottawa, Ontario, and her name is Emma Boniface. And Emma Boniface has launched a campaign, and I haven't seen anything about it in the mainstream press because I'm sure they're going to be very upset about it. And Emma went to Parliament yesterday. She was in the Charles Lynch room. This is a room in Parliament where they hold meetings all the time, and she was a 420 Ottawa keynote speaker. And she's 15. And she is issuing a statement and was available yesterday for questions to discuss the launch of her new campaign. And what's her new campaign called? Oh, the government's going to love this. Pot for Teens. It's called Pot for Teens. I'm thankful to Russell Barth. He's also been on the show before. We're in touch quite often with things, and Russell posted that this young gal was speaking there and was as taken aback, I'm sure, as was I. And so I thought, I have to speak to this woman because this is going to be exciting. So we have permission from her parents. Her mother has said it's okay for her to speak with us on the phone, and I will do my best to make sure I don't swear. All right, so Emma Boniface will be coming on shortly. And unfortunately, a report coming in now from, we've had Jody Emery on the show before. Her husband, Mark, says this. On the legalization, the ripoff begins in earnest at Nova Scotia's government pot shops. What's this all about? You can't see the weed. Now, I wondered about this before with, you can't go into a liquor store and sniff the Jack Daniels and see if it's okay. But, again, you can't really compare it to alcohol, and you sort of do need to sniff the weed to see if it has any kind of smell at all. It might have been losing terpenes if there's no odor. So the ripoff begins in earnest at Nova Scotia government pot shops. You can't see it. You can't smell it. You can't return it for a refund if it sucks. $14 a gram for legal pot. Yeah, I was just going to let that hang for a bit before I say anything else. $14 a gram for legal pot. These are the people who are so stupid that they think that this will shut down the black market, by doing it legally and charging $14 a gram. And you better get on that $14 a gram right away, because when the spring budgets come around from these provincial bodies and even the government of Canada, they're going to stick another dollar on every single gram there is, right? You know it. Which will be terrible for pot, because then that'll push it up another $28 on top of the $386 an ounce it is right now. For $386 for a pound, yeah. Okay, so right, so that's troublesome. Also, there seems to be some talk of pump and dump to Canadian LPs. Pump and dump. I was speaking with a grower yesterday online, and he says that pump and dump is coming to a Canadian LP. It might work, they say. It says that pump and dump to a Canadian LP may work, but the Cali market will be educated. This is some Twitter information going back and forth. The California market will be educated. So in other words, people are saying there, get rid of that shitty stuff up to Canada. They'll suck into that. they'll they'll deal with that stuff. So you got to watch out. You have to understand what it is you're taking in when you're enjoying or dealing with cannabis in any kind of way. All right, from the New York Post, right? That's one of the best publications out there, wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you think that's like one of the most right on top of it sort of publications we could find out there? No, I'm just kidding. But here's the headline. This is kind of a reefer madness figure. Smoking weed ages your brain by almost 3 years. Hey, that's good news to get when you're told you only have 1 year to live. Smoking cannabis ages the brain by nearly 3 years, according to new research. Marijuana. And right away, it's bullshit. When they use that word still, it's coming from these people. It's not okay. They were aging it by 2.8 years, making it worse for your mind than bipolar disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Schizophrenics' brains were found to age by an even greater average of 4 years. Boozing was also shown to age the organ by 0.6 years. They say brain aging is defined as reduced blood flow through the organ. Oh, so brain damage can happen in more than just one area of the... Lead study author, Dr. Daniel Amen, founder of Amen Clinics, and it's spelled like at the end of a prayer, you know, amen, said the cannabis abuse, that's better, cannabis abuse finding was especially important as our culture is starting to see marijuana as an innocuous substance. This study should give us pause about it. No, there's no pause now. We're coming in with it. Reduced brain blood flow has previously been linked to strokes and dementia. The researchers analyzed over 63,000 brain scans from 31,000 people. Scans collected during both rest and concentration and taking from people between 9 months and 105 years old to determine factors that contribute to brain aging. Okay, but where does it get to the part where we know that the cannabis has done this? Researchers analyzed blood flow through 128 regions of each brain to determine how old they thought the individual was. Once they learned the person's age, they were able to measure the rate of accelerated aging. This is one of the first population-based imaging studies, and these large studies are essential to answer how to maintain brain structure and function during aging. This is very conflicted as well. There is lots of information that speaks to the opposite, that says that cannabis kills the protein that causes Alzheimer's. So it's quite different. So there's a lot of information kicking around, and there are always agenda, right? I'm trying to make it clear that this is an option you can use especially if you've been told there aren't any options. But also you may want to try to do this when there are options. So just before we get to Emma Boniface, officials are concerned more fires could be caused by careless smoking when cannabis is legal. Deputy Fire Chief Roy Hollett of Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency says that you're now doing something that's going to impair your ability to react if something happens. Said. It's just such an angle, right? Like I could easily say to that, well, I'm doing something right now that even if it's impaired, which it isn't, but I'm telling you that I'm not, but you're telling me that I am. But even if I'm doing something, why am I able to do something that I'm impaired by when I'm not even supposed to still be here? So it's really, how you slice and dice. The improper disposal of smoking materials is still very much an issue for Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency. It says that in each of the last 2 years, 53 fires were started by people flicking away cigarettes. So you're not supposed to do that with things made of fire. But let's blame all that on cannabis. And real quick about mushrooms. How and why people microdose tiny hits of psychedelic drugs. Illegal, underground, and said to be brimming with health benefits, the practice of microdosing psychedelic drugs is growing increasingly popular, yet it remains relatively unstudied, and its reported benefits unproven. But they will tell you that it's bad for you and that it doesn't work. So that's very different from unstudied and benefits unproven. Unproven to whoever writes stuff for CBC, I'm sure, yeah. But lots of people understand that these tiny doses of psilocybin can greatly help you out. I know someone who has, and we should have her on the show sometime, but I won't say her name until I know we are going to have her on. She's taking a heck of a lot of psilocybin daily, does not get high at all, and it crushes her pain. So that's kind of an important thing to get on. And just before we bring on Emma, I got to bring some good news, right? I can't just sit here telling all these bad things that are happening. When there are good things happening, too. This is something that might freak a couple of people out, but that's okay, too. I don't mind that at all. What we have here is, you know all those commercials with George Clooney and Danny DeVito, and they've got the Nestle espresso machines, espresso coffee for you, and you drink some of this prepackaged sludge, and you think you're going to be as successful as is he? Not really. Never was really interested in Nespresso. And I don't like what Nestle does as far as absorbing water out of municipalities and turning it around for a profit is concerned. However, guess what you can do with an espresso machine? You can make a marijuana extract. Yeah, we're going to call it marijuana this time. A lot of time and money goes into that research, but guess what? If you take a nug of weed and put it into an espresso machine, guess what you can do? You can extract the cannabis ingredients in under 1 minute. Now, I have not tried this because I don't have the machine, but this is in marijuanamoment.net. It says that basically what the researchers were able to do was they've published it, too, in an international journal of pure and applied analytical chemistry. But what they've done is they've taken... how much is this machine anyway? It's an Essenza Manual XN 2003 machine. It's about $300 on eBay. Not available on Amazon. Probably they just found out about it. And what you do is you put nug of weed into that little cup thing where the coffee goes, and it cranks out. It cranks out three main ingredients: THC, CBD, and CBN, which is basically what you want. So if anybody has one of those machines, an espresso machine, take a nug and check it out. See if it works. Get back to us. Let us know. And when you let us know, you can do that at Green Crush Pod. Or you can just go right to patreon.podbean.com/greencrushpod and tell us about it there when you leave us a couple of dollars a month to continue this show. It's come down to that. It's come down to we're just about out of time and ability to continue with the show. We're really down to it, and considering how many episodes we've did, I'm fine with it personally, because if you really need the help, you can get it. You can get it by listening to these shows. And I didn't do these shows just to fart into the wind and let it go by unused. Okay, I really did put some time and effort and thought into saying, like, how would I best relay the information that helped me not die, and share that with a lot of people. And I thought we were going to do 6 or maybe 10 episodes, and to get that done, and put it out there for folks to be able to. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and more people interested in it. And so here we are at episode 55. So I'm really happy to say that I feel like I've done the information that you need. I mean, you can just go back and, dial up episode 24 or episode 8 or whatever the hell, and just listen to it again. And, it's not all chaptered. I didn't make it like DVDs where we're going to go from here to there, but it's all in there. If you just listen to it and take it in with an open mind, I'm sure you can find everything in there that you need to get going. And let's quickly plug a couple of hosts. I'm the host. A couple of people that were helping us get this thing done. Definitely Eggplant. Russell's over here. He's going to go back to school, so we're not going to see him for a while. And things are changing. What can I tell you? So great. We're going to call our friend now, Emma Boniface. Here we go. Emma. Here we go. And let's see what Emma has to say about things. Now, this is a great proactive 15-year-old Ottawa.
Hello?
Hello, how are you, Emma? We are on the air live. How's it going today?
Alrighty. Good, you?
I'm pretty good, thanks. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you because, well, you've been through a lot, and you've got a controversially entitled campaign going on. And
Yes.
I want to hear about it, but let's tell the folks who you are. You're 15 years old. You live in Canada's capital city area, right?
Yeah, Ottawa. Yeah.
And so in Ottawa, you know, you're a young person of what? How old were you? 13, 14? And for some reason you wound up taking medical cannabis. Is that right? Can you tell us the story how that
I was 14 when I started.
Okay.
It was around January, and it was because I was just sick and tired of taking all these prescription drugs and all the medication I was on, because it was making me feel very sick, and I didn't like the side effects it had with me. So that's when I started to look into cannabis, because my mother was on it. So
Okay.
I looked into it, and I thought it would be a really, really good fit for me. And ever since I've been on it, it's helped me more than I could even imagine.
Okay, well, are you able to share what was the medical or what was the reason you were taking it medically? Or is that private?
Oh, no, I can say it. Like, what the reason why I use it medically?
Yeah, like you said you got sick of the other medicine. Well, I'm just curious what your condition is.
So I have anxiety, ADHD, depression, and scoliosis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Scoliosis is a bending of the spine, is that right?
Yeah, it's a curvature of the spine. So my spine is technically turning into an S.
Oh.
It's minor, but the pain is still there.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so that's when I was diagnosed with scoliosis. That's when I started to really look into it.
Okay. And you were 14 when you got the diagnosis?
I was 14, yeah.
And okay, so and your mother was already using it for different reasons, I suppose?
Yes, my mother was using it for her ankylosing spondylitis.
Oh, I've heard of that. That's a tricky one.
Yeah, it's a very big mouthful.
Yeah, you said it very well, though. Good for you.
It took me 3 years to learn how to say it.
It's hard to say, yeah. You sound well practiced. So you're 14 at that time.
I'm 15, actually.
Right,
oh, yeah.
At the time, you're 14, and was it your doctor who said, you know what, Emma, you need cannabis? Like, how did you get to that? Like, where they actually made it happen for you?
My doctor actually thought it was psychoactive and would derail me and make me, like, I would go crazy and everything.
Oh, okay.
So he said no.
Right.
So then we started looking into it, and
what other things were you on before that he said no to this? What other?
I was on bifenton, and then I was on Concerta. I was on Ativan. I was on. It's hard to pronounce the names because they're very difficult.
Okay. Yeah, a whole cocktail then. All right, a whole bunch of.
Oh them. Yeah, all for. I thankfully didn't go on any painkillers for scoliosis because that was a definite no for me because I had seen what happened with my mom, and it's in my mind that I will never ever do that.
Right. Well, just real quick for the people, I just snatched one name out of the air you mentioned, Concerta. This is called a methylphenidate. It's a central nervous system stimulant, and it affects chemicals in the brain and nerves that contribute to the hyperactivity and impulse control. Okay, so you're really messing around with some important stuff if you're taking that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you were able to get nowhere with your regular doctor. He wanted you to take this other thing. He wanted me to just get used to it because he said the side effects would go away if I kept on taking it. That's lies.
And I tried and I tried, but I wouldn't eat because it would make me feel like I would throw up every time I would eat. I would become I'm an introvert, and when I was on my medication and stuff, I would become very much an introvert. I didn't like being around people. Everything would make me feel very anxious. I always wanted to be by myself, and it didn't even help me in my schoolwork because I was always still like, how do you say it? I wasn't even focused in school because my mind was everywhere.
Right. All over the map. That's the ADHD part of it, or ADD or what have you.
Yeah. Where I can't concentrate on anything, like little noises and stuff like that.
Right.
If I have that, it's awful.
Okay. And so did we get to the part about how you actually access this thing then legally? Because your doctor wasn't helping you, so you got it somewhere else. I mean, if you, I don't want you to implicate anybody. What I'm actually trying to find out is if you did wind up somewhere getting a proper prescription from somebody, or you just did it on your own.
We did it on our own because no one would listen to me when I said that this was good.
Isn't that a weird feeling when you know something's good and people won't listen to you?
Lie.
I know. I'm so
like,
tired of that.
My body doesn't lie to me. I know what's going on in my body. So if I'm telling you that this thing that you're putting me on isn't working and I'm not happy, then you should listen to me.
And so how long have you been switched over from pharma garbage over to this green substance?
I have been on for 6 months, and actually we went and saw the doctor that told me not to go on it.
How did that go?
We didn't tell him. What we said was that he said, whatever you're doing an amazing job.
I think they learned that phrase in medical school. I really do, because I had the same thing going on with my cancer. I was getting better and better and better towards the deadline where he was telling me I was going to die, and I'm getting better and better and better. And he kept saying, like, I don't know, I don't get it. Like, whatever you're doing, keep up, you know. And then as soon as I told him what I was doing, he goes, oh, no, that's not a good idea. Don't do that.
Yeah, it gets me so angry because I'm not a person that's going to lie about what's going on with me. You know what I mean?
No, of course not. You're not sitting there trying to get high. You're trying to get pain out of your system.
I'm trying to not be in pain, and I'm trying to focus in school and not fail my grades.
Yeah, so you're obviously a sharp gal. So tell me a little bit about the discussion, because this is super important for parents. Never mind yourself. I mean, not never mind yourself. Don't get me wrong.
Well,
I just mean that it's really important for parents and or caregivers who have young people in their care, because technically speaking, let me tell you something. If this is October 18th, some over-ambitious, pointless, rule enforcer might even try to put your mom in jail for like 14 years.
Which is crazy, because my mom could give me a sip of alcohol, and she would get like a year maybe.
Yeah.
Like if she gave me a glass of wine, she would get a year. But if she just gives me this natural substance that is helping me live my life and not be in pain and want to cry all the time, she can go up to 14 years, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So you're aware of the whole new where it is and where it's going to be, huh?
Oh yeah, and I'm not very happy about it at all.
So what are your plans? I mean, you have to personally protect yourself, your mother, the whole family. You don't want to get in trouble. So what are you going to do to keep it, on the down low, or how do you go about living that?
Well, right now it's hard. Well, I don't smoke or anything like that. Like I don't like that. That's not me. I take capsules. So it's like as if I'm still taking medication.
Really? You take I'm making a capsule right now. Good for you. Go on.
Yeah. So it's you know what it is. It's an oil inside of the capsule, and I'll take it in the morning, like a pill, and then I'll just feel so much better for the rest of the day.
Yes, I understand. I can't believe I've never done this before on the show, or I forgot to take. I didn't forget. I just didn't have time this morning to take medicine. And so now here I'm doing it. I'm loading up caps for the first time ever on the show, and you're telling me exactly the same thing. So that's pretty good synchronicity.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. So anyway, there we go. So that's incredible that you've gotten to this. So basically, listen, I'm not trying to scare you with the legal thing. I'm just trying to say, as a brother, I'm your brother in this, okay? Because I'm also physically compromised when I don't have it. And so I understand that. And I really don't. No, I do care that it's against the law, but that's not going to stop me from taking the one thing that I found to be far more effective than everything else, right?
Yeah. If, like, the government is just saying, what the government is telling us is that we can't take this medication that we have. We've gone through all these prescribed medications. We've tried to take them and feel better, but they've just ruined my mom's life. Like,
gave it a good go, right? Gave it a good go, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
She tried. She really tried, and she comes from a very Catholic family, so drugs and all that stuff was a definite no, and she always listened to her doctor.
Yeah.
And so when she was on the fentanyl and all those opioids for I think 3 years, and by the end of it she had become a zombie. I didn't know my mom, and now that she's on this, I She's so amazing.
Oh, God, that's so good to hear. Let me ask you some gory details. So when your mom was this messed up woman who you didn't really know and was on those meds, what was the transition time to get out of that and back over to the, normal sort of, once you started to take cannabis and change your ways?
Well, I don't know the exact time because I'm not 100% sure when she started the cannabis and the transition.
Okay, but some time though, right? Like a year or 6 months?
Yeah, it took around it took around a year or so. And the thing is though, when she would go into a really bad withdrawal, when she would try to cut cold turkey and we'd had to bring her to the hospital would just fill her back up with like her medication.
Yeah.
And we'd be back at square one.
Yeah. All right, Emma, so let's get to it. So you've been taking this stuff for how long?
I've been taking it for about 6 months now.
Okay. So when did it occur to you, I got to start a group called Pot for Teens? When did that come into it?
Well, it started when my mom was talking about this was when I was already on cannabis and I had already done all this research. 420 was coming up. I think it was the week before. And my mom had told me that they were looking for a young person to talk about cannabis for like as a speaker.
Who's they?
And I said it was my mom said she found it on Facebook. It was the organizers for the 420 2018 in Ottawa.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. And so my mom contacted them, let them know that we were interested, and they took me right away. And so then I became the keynote speaker, and Russell Barth, I don't know if you know him.
I do, yeah. He's a guest on the show, and he posted your information on. That's why I called you, actually.
He's like my mentor. Like he's been with me the entire time. He's been, all because of him. This is all happening. Yeah. You know what I mean? That
you've got this sort of support of a guy that uses this stuff and understands it better than a lot of people.
Yeah, and he understands like where all this frustration is coming from and everything. So what happened was after 420, we were talking about how I would be able to make an impact. And we started talking about making a campaign, and I told him about my story when I had nobody to talk to when I was, doing all this research. I had to do it on my own, you know what I mean?
Hey, I was right here. I was right here the whole time. I've been here like a year doing this.
Only if I found you.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
And so I was saying that it would have been awesome if we could find a way to get a place where teenagers or young adults who are in this situation where they don't have anybody to turn to ask these questions. Let's say they're on medication and they're having the same side effects as me and they're hating it, and they want something that's going to make them better. Well, if they can go onto Pot for Teens. It's on Twitter, and there's also an account on Instagram too.
Pot for Teens, folks. P-O-T, and then is it 4 or F-O-R?
F-O-R.
F-O-R. Okay, Pot for Teens, and we can find this on Twitter.
Twitter and Instagram, yeah.
Instagram, okay.
And they can go and on Twitter they can go and ask questions. Let's say they have a question about the difference between CBD and THC.
Yeah.
I know that they can research that, but sometimes it's better when you get it when you're talking to somebody. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And you can relate. Yeah,
sure.
And also there's also going to be like news about what's going on with the legalization. I'm going to be posting stuff on there, and all teens can go and like say their opinion on what's going on and feel like they have a voice.
Yeah. Well, that's great. It's really good that you're making it clear to people that it is a medical, effective, helpful thing for you.
Yeah.
Because there's already, as you know, like tons of people think anybody your age or younger, they don't know anything. They're just getting all messed up.
Yeah. No, like I'm not saying, like personally, I don't believe in. Not that I don't believe, but I don't find it right that if children are going to be doing like cannabis and stuff, if they're just doing it recreationally this young.
Yeah.
Because it's
not
but
okay.
If it's for medical
it's a tool.
use, yeah, it's it's still a drug. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, think of it as a chainsaw.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. You didn't learn how to use it. You don't know what kind of oil thing and maintain it and clean it.
Yeah. Because those kids, they'll go and get that stuff off the street, and it could be laced with fentanyl.
Right.
And they have no idea.
Do you have friends? Do you have friends that really, as far as you're concerned, they have no idea what's going on here with this stuff? Like people that are just they don't get it yet. Of course you do because you have this medical need. But do you have friends where they go, you just think you're getting high all the time for no reason?
Actually, today was the first time I told anybody.
Oh wow.
So today was the me like saying coming out, I guess, but like not coming
Okay.
out.
Well, before
Yeah.
we let you go, Emma, it's been great having you on. This is the thing.
It was a pleasure.
It's been such a long time for us older folks to, I've been sitting there waiting for this, not like on the edge of my seat, and I wasn't sick when I was much younger, but I've been aware of the rules and the punishments against cannabis for my entire life. And it's only just changing now, so I'm excited that a 14-year-old girl can find out that this stuff, or a 14-year-old anybody, but I'm speaking with you, that anybody so young can understand that this can have and does have, if you use it properly, it has medical benefits, and you are an advocate. So good for you, and well done, Russell.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's really great. So now, but you're not off the hook. I'm just making sure people know who I'm speaking with. So now you were invited to go and speak at Parliament, and tell us about that yesterday.
So it was today.
Oh, right. I
Yes, it
was
was
speaking
just
with
this
you
morning.
yesterday. I'm so sorry. It was this morning at 10
No, it's all
o'clock.
good.
How did it go? What happened? What did they say? What was the reaction?
It went pretty well. I was very, very nervous,
Right.
Of course, but it went really well. Of course, it could have gone better, but it was my first conference, only my second time speaking in public.
Right.
There's some things that I would have liked to have done better, but it went really well. The feedback was amazing. Like all of these people that I looked up to on Facebook, like just people that I've looked up to and for about a year now are, congratulating me.
Yeah, well, it's a big deal.
It feels amazing.
It's a big deal, yeah. So you had people in government of any capacity at all listening to you?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so you were just speaking to the other people who were getting it over
Yeah.
time. You weren't convincing anybody in government that, but you did run into some reporting, I guess. Did you have anybody come on from TV stations or radio stations asking you questions about pot for teens or your experience with it?
Yeah, I have had a few. I've had a few TV pro. I have an interview later this week.
Okay.
To talk about that.
Yeah.
And I've had there was a bunch of reporters. There wasn't a bunch, but there was a couple of reporters there who asked me questions.
Okay.
I know there was one from what is that?
CBC?
Yeah, CBC. Yeah.
Yeah. People are forgetting who they are now, justifiably so. Go on. So what did he ask you?
It was a she. She just asked
sorry.
me. No, it's all good. She asked me. What did she ask? Sorry, my mind is everywhere today.
That's okay. So CBC yesterday, you've already done the speaking, and then they came up to you and asked what?
It was right after the conference during the Q&A section.
Mm-hmm.
She asked. God, I can't remember. I feel so awful.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's okay. But you spoke to me earlier on the phone today, just when we were making sure we had a good connection, and you said that the CBC reporter was.
Oh no, it wasn't a CBC reporter. It was a different reporter. I don't know where he was
a different
from.
reporter. Okay, so some reporter was giving you a bit of a grilling, right? Like why didn't you do this last year or something, right?
Yeah, he told me that there was that the government had tried to get the youth to come in and help them out, but if they did, I would have heard about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that they didn't, but they didn't do a good enough job giving enough publicity about it. Because if I didn't hear about it, I'm a teenager who has a phone and I'm on social media all the time. And if I didn't hear about that, then they didn't do a good enough job trying to recruit the youth.
Well, they did a horrible job, but I'm a little confused on the timeline. I mean, you've only known about this for 6 months. How could you even have found out about it last year? I mean, that's what I said to you. The stupid question is, why didn't you do something before you did something if you didn't already know about it?
It's almost as if he just came into the thing without knowing anything about my history.
Wow.
As if he had known, he would have known that I only had started about this 6 months ago.
Yeah. Wow. So that's incredible, but I'm so glad. So let me ask you some basic questions about your pain and your issues and stuff. So you do find that it's helping you, right? It helps you with the pain?
100%. It helps me with my pain. It helps me concentrate. It takes away when I was on my medication, I would feel very just not there. I would just feel not there. And now when I'm with this, I feel much better. Like I'm able to concentrate much better.
Okay.
Things aren't bothering me. my back pain, it takes the edge right off. So now only if I'll ever get back pain, it's just because I bent my back all the way back.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it takes away that that little bit of pain that is always bothering me, and that's the one major part, because I can't, like, that's the major part. It's my pain, and
Yeah. Sure. So what would you say to someone who says to you, have you ever had anybody say to you, oh, that's terrible, you're using that as like a crutch? Using that as a crutch. Have you ever heard that phrase?
I haven't yet.
Oh, okay, so that's.
But I've had friends, well, not friends, but I know people who've had that told to them, and I think that that's ridiculous. It's like, it's like telling it's like telling somebody who is diabetic and they're using insulin, oh, that's just a crutch.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like taking a real medicine. You know? Somehow real medicine is helping you get through your tough times, but using this other medicine as a crutch. And to that I say, first of all, it's not a crutch. It's helping me normalize my own body to respond to it better. And second of all, if I need a crutch, I need a crutch.
I would go out and buy one.
Yeah, so it's pretty amazing that folks don't get this, but I'm so thrilled that you were able to get through and find this stuff, and that your mom is helpful enough. And I would just counsel you to be careful as things roll forward, because because you're making sense and you're logical and you're on top of things doesn't mean you're not in trouble. Okay, in fact, it's often the opposite. So just be careful and enter our contest. I'm going to tell you, enter our contest at Green Crush Pod. You might win something. Paul and I are going to be speaking down at HempFest, Hemp and Cannabis Expo in September 15, 16. If you're in the city, definitely stay in touch with us, okay? Because
of course.
Shoot us a message once in a while. I love to know how you're doing and how things continue on, because what I have learned, I'll share this with you, youngster. What I've learned over the time from myself and so many other people, guests on the show particularly I'm speaking of, but this is also spilling out into the real world, is that so many people who have had, let's just say, bad things going on, such as your scoliosis and whatever else, all your problems, that you found relief with this cannabis. Not only might you find relief, you might find yourself standing on a platform shouting it out to everybody else, because there's this compassionate element to cannabis that if you're really doing it for the right reasons, you'd like to help other people access it as well. So
that's the major thing. I want to, because I know that there are people out there who are going through the same thing as me. You know what I mean? And I want to help them. I'm not here for all the fame and the spotlight. I'm not that kind of person. If anything, I don't like the spotlight. I'm here just to really help people. Someone who is going through the same thing I did, you know, where they're at the bottom. They don't want to take their medication anymore. Like, this needs, you know what I mean? I'm sorry. I'm just
Not only do I know what you mean, it's the exact same feeling and sentiment of why I created this show in the first place. So there's kinship there. There's something going on. You're obviously a warm-hearted person trying to help other people. So thanks for coming on. That's exactly the ethos.
Thank you so
That's
much
exactly
for
the
having me.
reason why I ever put this show on the air, for the exact same reason you just articulated. There's nothing more to say except for thanks for coming on. Good luck.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Good
anytime.
luck to you too.
I'm so glad you
We'll
were
stay
able
in
to come on.
touch.
All right, Emma. Thanks very much for coming on.
No problem.
Emma
All right, see
Boniface,
ya.
folks. That's a nice young woman there from Ottawa, Ontario, who understands just a couple of things. Isn't that nice? Well, I'm going to now contact my friend Paul. I wonder if he heard Emma. Paul is available, I hope. I hope he's there. Here we go. We'll get him on the line. Before he answers the phone, though, I should remind you about our socials, a Green Crush Pod contest, and also we'll get into the plea bargaining.
I hope he's there. There we go.
Oh,
Get him on.
Turn down your radio, please, caller.
Mr. Alan Park.
How's it going, Paul?
It's going excellent. What a delightful young person you had on there.
Oh, so yeah, you did hear it 7 seconds later than I did. But yeah, isn't that great? I'm so sorry she's had any kind of medical mishaps. But you hear the champion spirit in these people, right? Like I said to her at the end, it's just incredible how she got dealt a bad hand. She figured out this quote-unquote illegal thing, and now she's doing well and bringing it forward and wants people to understand this.
It's amazing. I mean, cannabis affects everybody that way. You want to share it with everyone, and it's a long tradition. I mean, it's like passing the pipe or passing the joint.
It literally is. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
the talking stick a lot of cultures have. When someone has the stick, that nobody else talks, they pass it around the circle or the I mean, I know this because when I was so sick in the first place, and then, you know, I didn't want to tell anybody, and then it's almost like having not Alzheimer's, but leprosy if you have cancer, and I didn't want to tell anybody I was taking this illegal thing. I certainly wasn't going to go on some internet show and tell the world I'm doing this illegal thing, and my mom set me up. I was afraid, you know, it's fear. And then you realize, fuck, this works great. I'm not going to be afraid of any of that stuff, you know, because go ahead and prove me wrong type of thing. It wakes you up, it liberates
absolutely.
you. I'm so glad to see a kid who's 15 years old already on top of that.
I'm so glad to see anybody who's suffering have relief, you know?
Yeah. It also makes you feel, whenever someone else says, oh, yeah, it's working great for me, I get a little kick out of it myself, like it's actually working on me. It's like, oh, good, I'm glad it's working for you. That's good, because it's also working for me, you know? Anyway, so good to have her on and you know, freshen up the demographics a little bit for the show.
Yeah.
Might be our youngest listener ever. Who knows?
Yes, I'm pretty sure she probably is.
Yeah. So you and I are going to be speaking at Hemp and Cannabis Expo. That's September 15, 16, Saturday, Sunday, I guess, at Exhibition Place. And we're in the Grow Light Green Crush booth. Tell everybody what Grow Light is, Paul. Paul, of course, if you're just joining us and don't know us from before, Paul is partner to the show, an accomplice, and he's also a master grower, knows a thing or two about mushrooms as well, including how to break records of getting arrested for having 2,000 pounds of them. But right now...
Thank you.
Hey, listen. But I want to tell you,
one of my
folks,
prouder accomplishments.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But so tell the folks about Grow Light. It's spelled GRO and then capital LYT. And okay, so a grow light is a light that we need to make cannabis grow. I could probably do that with a 100-watt bulb. Why is a grow light any better than that?
Well, there's so many grow lights out there right now, and everybody wants to have an LED that can grow cannabis. And the problem with most of or all of what's available, we discovered, is that they're trying to do it in a very clumsy fashion to create the color balance that is needed to stimulate the cannabis plant into proper flowering.
Okay.
And how they're doing it is they're using different colored diodes that send out a photon that you perceive as red or blue, and they mix it with white. And that's a really clumsy way to try to create the effect of the sun, because the photons don't mix. They hit the plant's leaf surface as red, as blue. And as a result, one of the things you see with LEDs is not good penetration through the canopy, and a lot of kind of larfy, not tight buds. And generally just low quality builds. Everything's built with off the rack LEDs and cheap drivers that they overdrive, so they're less efficient and they break down sooner, right?
Yeah.
So in the course of all that, although the LED is a fantastic fucking idea, right, because of the efficiency and the use of power, but to get it to perform right, what me and my good friend Paul Carlson did was bug a friend of ours named Pete Smith from a company called Vision Smith that creates LEDs for the cinema industry. And in the cinema industry, you use a lot of lighting on film sets, and there's a lot of these old fixtures in studios and the rental houses. And they came up with LEDs that plug in and knock the power usage by 75%. And they create the color balance in the chip and the light that is put out by custom mixing the gas that goes in the chip.
Super complicated. Come on.
Super complicated, but basically like a high pressure sodium light has a great orange red spectrum in it, right? And that's why people used them for decades to bloom. This bulb does the same thing, but we're the only company that makes LEDs ourselves. Everybody else buys off the rack. So we conned this guy into building us a light. And over 7 years, they developed this LED light for us that basically our power efficiency factor is 0.98. Nobody else in the industry can touch that. They are at 0.90. That's the highest.
Wow.
And that means we're 10 times more efficient. And I'll give you an example. In a 28 light grow, Paul had 10 double-ender Gavitas or something like that in there that had a kind of a HPS magnetic induction bulb.
Okay, you just lost me in the last 8 seconds. You just went into like NASA talk right there. But I'm trying to follow along. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it gets like that. So, anyways, you have to use more lights in this scenario, and so he put in 28 lights in this room, and at the same time he added solar to his house to compensate for it. And at the beginning of the grow, in the first month, he gets a bill for $7 from the electric company. At the end of the grow, they're paying him $47 a month. So the power efficiency was just absolutely freaking mind-boggling.
That's amazing, yeah. Wow.
And then what happened is this light, and actually the first person to ever test these lights in Canada was Dr. Sam Malachi. He bought the first 8, and he was completely blown away. He put them in a grow tower in his farm in Abbotsford, and got one round off, and then he had his stroke shortly after that. Yeah. And then in Paul's grow, it wasn't the best effort he's ever done, but it proved a whole lot of points. And when you go to growlight.com, GROLYT.com, you can see pictures of Paul's first attempt with these lights. And the amazing thing was that he moved them right up on the ceiling, which was about 9 feet high.
Wow. Yeah.
And he got penetration all the way to the floor with these LEDs and rock hard buds right to the bottom of the plant.
So what is it about the light, or is it because it's in gas or something? You're talking about the color balance is super technical. Okay,
well, wait, you're trying to create something called the McCree action spectrum curve, right? And that is a curve of light frequency that the plant responds to. And McCree was the scientist who figured out what that curve was, right?
Okay.
And so what we did was we matched the curve with the gases, and then we goosed it in the orange and red spectrum.
Right.
So that between 620 and 740, the frequency of the light is goosed, right?
Right.
Which is basically what a HPS, high pressure sodium, does, right? It's kind of similar, but what's different about how this curve action is it's completely smooth, whereas with bulbs like HPS, it's very ragged, right? If you look at it on a spectroscope, you see that it's a very jagged curve. Yeah. Where with this we were able to create and develop a system where we get a full sky effect and true sun renditions. So the plant at every stage, even in the vegetative stage, responds insane to these lights.
Wow.
And
so this is going to bring you a massively powerful yield, and as you say, you're also doing it for far less money because the electricity consumption is so minimal, right?
Oh, yes, and your cooling costs as well. When you go to the website, there's a ROI calculator, so you can put in all your stuff, and it'll tell you how much you'll save, right?
Wow.
The other thing is this is the only military-grade LED made. Vision Smith makes LEDs for the military. They make them for fighter jets, and they make them for nuclear submarines. And
to grow weed on the submarine, you mean?
no, just for actual lighting inside the cockpit and landing lights, bow lights on submarines. I mean, they're in the next year and a half, they're going to come out with a 12,000 watt LED chip, one chip, and it's the size of like a chicken pot pie tin. It's that big.
I can't understand how they actually, cram all the information. It's just incredible. That whole thing about everything shrinking down tiny. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah. And these lights are also 100% waterproof and shockproof. The front of them is made out of Gorilla Glass, the same stuff that's on your phone, but this stuff's a 1/4 inch thick.
Wow.
One of the guys in California took one into a sales pitch, and he beat it with a broom handle the whole time he was talking to these people, and they were waiting for the thing to explode, right? But it never did, because 100% waterproof. You can actually put the thing underwater and run it underwater if you want to. Anyways, that's Grow Lights.
Yeah, that's
Check
crazy.
it out.
So they'll be at the booth.
Growlight.com.
So we'll be at the booth, and you will be talking mostly about that and some Crush stuff, and I'll be talking mostly about Crush stuff and a bit about the Grow Lights. But it should be a fun time there for the 2 days, huh?
Yeah, we'll probably talk a bit about King Clone too. We're bringing King Clone to Canada.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. I just wanted, before we get to that, because that's a whole other product, and I'm still thinking about how the science of these lights. Like, this is really nerdy and stupid a question because I don't know about this, and maybe this isn't relevant. But how do you get the gas? What is the gas? How do you mix the gas, and then how do you shove it in these tiny little light bulbs?
Man, that's the expensive part of the whole process.
Sure it is.
Being geared up for that. I mean, these guys, they have a factory in Northern California, and the work they're doing there is pretty special stuff. It's they have some sub-assembly stuff done in China, but their sub-assembly shop there is the top end one, right?
Okay.
So it's.
Go ahead.
So it's one of those things. They make everything they build to military specification, right?
Yeah.
So they can't discount any process in like their cinema lighting division or anything. It's all made to the same specification.
Right.
So like for instance, to be military spec and color balance, the light can't shift for 150,000 hours. No light.
How much is that? Like how many? 30 years or something? What are we doing there?
It's almost 25 years.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's literally the last light you would buy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I need a whole bunch of them then. That's great. And so they're not hot either, right? Or they just?
No, they're very cool. You can hold them in your hand the whole time they're running. They weigh 14 pounds. They're not light, and we're about to come out with a new setup with all dimming and DMX and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth interconnected, so that you can control them from your phone. We have a dimmer pack that you can run 20 lights off of that sets up the same way. Right. So it's all those kind of things. So you do program sunsets and sunrises and things like that.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, let me just take a minute here and say. It's a double load today. That's for sure. Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm just being honest with you folks. Paul is being honest. I'm being honest. We do have these fantastic lights, and it is going to turn things around. And I'm not selling them today. Come on down and check us out at booth 126 at the Hemp and Cannabis Expo in Toronto. But aside from the lights and the booth and everything else, the show wants to continue. We really do. It's just like public access radio. They do this every episode on public access radio. And this is the first time I've done this in 55 episodes, 50 whatever we're at episodes. We do have a patron account. We should do a telethon. We can have comedians come in and do jokes for. That's what we need to do. I'm just getting the word out there because we do have this patron account, so we can get some help, and we haven't been pushing it all because I've been hating to push it. I just wanted to get this out. I thought things were going to open up. I thought we were going to get some We had a deal with a particular company that then was absorbed by another company and kept the distribution rights of that thing just when we thought we were going to be distributing it. We've had a medical a medical cannabis purveyor get right on board with us right up to the last second. 2 out of the 3 paperworks were already signed, and it was my turn, and they called and said, no, we can't get involved. And this is all because of the laws of the government. People don't want to get confused as illegally promoting cannabis, where my point is I'm just telling you what it is and how it works and what I used it for. So that's it. I mean, and Paul is another cancer person also who was able to flatten his cancer with this terrible weed that's going to destroy your brain and all this other bullshit. So we have been trying to get this word out for free in volume for a year now. So we really are asking you to come forward, to go to Patreon, Patron. There's another kind of one of these. We're not on that one right now. We are at Patreon. You can go to iTunes. That would be good. If you're getting this from iTunes, leave a little note. Leave a little message there about it. And the only reason I'm really going on ad nauseum about this is because we're really at this stage now where we do need this help. I wouldn't be asking this, and if you go through all the shows, you won't be hearing a pitch like this for all the shows, like over a year's worth of free shows. Okay, so it's really important you get on board and come on down and meet us and help us out, and we can continue. I'm not crying the blues. Like, if I can't do the show anymore, I can't do the show. I'll do some other things. And what have you. But I really think it's a valuable piece of information that we've got here, from how to turn your health around into how to grow your own things. What are we trying to sell lights for, Paul? So people can take responsibility for their own medicine, so they know it's not a toxic, shitty plant that's had chemicals poured onto it. You get your seed, you get your plant, and you need to know that it's coming from a good place. And so what better idea to know than do your own research and grow your own thing? And I didn't try to do this, I swear, but I've given you a perfect segue to talk about King Clone. To talk about King Clone. What is a clone?
Well,
what is King Clone? And why do we care about this in Canada?
Well, genetics is what it's all about, and there's nothing more frustrating than planting a seed or taking a clone and growing it to fruition and having it be crappy, right?
Waste of time and effort.
You loved it and did all these things for it, and and that's an experience I've had. It's a frustration, Quality seed is a real issue. And we had Ernie Cephalou on the show, and Ernie is one of the primary people at King Clone in California. He and Ben Tang, who is an engineer by trade, but also had a medical condition that required him using cannabis. And like, he made the discovery, like so many people, and went into business, and created a business model of creating seeds and genetics that are really superior, like really has some, he was involved with the people who developed the Granddaddy Perp line, right?
Right.
And so as happens in those relationships, they split up, and Ben went his way and the other people went their way, and he has cataloged some really great strains on his site that grow true. And so their business model in California is pretty limiting because you can't ship out of the state and to other states. So for them, they decided the next move was they're going to come to Canada. So I'm helping them make that transition. And we're going to have King Clone set up here in Canada, where when you want to get plants delivered or great seeds that have the kind of genetics that are required to exist in the California market, they're in a unique situation there because before legalization there, they had what they called the collective system, where it was not for profit, and you would have an enclave of people and dispensaries that you serviced and so on, right? And then when legalization came in, they they hatcheted a lot of that, and he had to shut down a lot. And he still has one, so I think he has 6 dispensaries that he services in California, and then they sell $300,000 worth of clones a month.
Wow.
And providing medical grade clones to people with the great California genetics, and then they've been developing the next generation of genetics, right? They've got a strain now that's got 34% THC. So we're about to see those things come. So we'll be talking about that at the booth.
Yeah.
People want to check them out. It's King Clone Brand, clone with a K, .com, and you can see what their stuff's about. And
Ernie's the real deal, right? Like Ernie's the real deal. Like Ernie, I can't remember now the number of the show, but he was a guest on the show. We talked about rock and roll. Ernie designed the Stones, Rolling Stones, lips with the tongue coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is 50 years balls deep into rock and roll history and doing this stuff. He's not a fly-by-nighter. These are real things. It's top quality. So when we get to legalization and this, organization of a fresh series of rules and laws, this genetics issue and understanding, it's already important. It's already important. Don't get me wrong. It's already important. But after things change and as we head towards in the new landscape of decades of, there'll be problems, this whole accessing of quality goods is going to be a premium field of research and investigation and acquisition unto itself, right? You really have to get the good stuff. And we've got this Monsanto Bayer ghost looming over the future, looming over the highway of the mountains there as we're heading towards it. So you really got to know that you've got good stuff. That's
those guys are delusional. They don't understand that the market's already developed and the rudder is set and the course is steady, where all the good genetics belong to the people of the world of California and of our culture, not to them. They can do whatever they want, GMO it all the fuck they want.
Right, but I just mean that
there's a lot of hemp is already GMO'd for growing for fiber,
Yeah, that's true. I just mean from the people that are the folks that are going like, oh, okay, it's legal, I'll try some, and don't just blindly walk into some government vendor and buy some government stuff. That's how it's going to proliferate, like because people aren't paying attention.
I don't understand how this is going to work when it's one of those things that's tactile and visceral. You smell it, you look at it, you feel it.
Well, you're not allowed to do that. Apparently, not allowed to do that in a lot of places.
No, so you're gonna get this opaque container with some weed in it, and you can't open it there and look at it, and you got to go home and open it, and then if it's bullshit, which it's going to be probably 80% of the time.
Oh yeah.
And you're gonna go, oh, and now I can't return it because they don't allow returns.
Yeah, no return. Can you imagine like buying a chair or a couch and you don't even get to sit in the thing, or buy a car, you can't take it for a test drive? Like, what are these people thinking? This is like the sober, sentient, clear-minded intelligence of the...
I mean, our community is so freaking tight about the ethics of what they're doing. I'll give you an example. Some friends of mine have been buying stuff online from somebody in BC, right?
Yeah.
And the shipment gets sent, and it doesn't show up when they say it's going to show up. And the person gets all edgy, and they reship it, and they get the second shipment, and then they get the other shipment shows up the next day. And they just said, keep it. Keep it for the hassle.
Yeah.
You go, nobody else does that.
Nobody
shit,
does
and
that.
The government's not going to do it, you know?
It's amazing. I know. It's really incredible that there's a benevolence. I said this on one show before, or maybe more than once, but I think it bears repeating, is that we have to make money in this world the way whoever it is set it up. We have to make money. And so a lot of people, loads of people, corporations, individuals, they come at this life just needing to get a bunch of money. They just need money. And that's great. We all need it. But if that's your thing, the first thing you're tacking towards, no wonder there's so many problems. But with these cannabis victims, I'll say, the cancer victims, myself, yourself, other people, other illnesses. We had Emma on taking care of her scoliosis and other things with. with this, it becomes the most important thing you need to do. You know, like I kept this a secret. I wasn't going to tell people I had a fatal disease and I was using an illegal means to get out of it when I was the old me. And then you realize I can't keep this a secret. This little 14-year-old, well, she was 14 when she started, 15 now, Emma, she's already realized this. She's like, I'm out here telling people and I want them. So later, when you make income, it's coming from the benevolent aspect of what your drive was. Not just make money, but let's do this cool thing. And then later on, hopefully it'll bring some income. And that, to me, has happened with so many people in this field. You know, we had Cam Noble on from Noble Extracts, and episode whatever that was back in June. And this guy was on his way to be a lawyer, and then he abandons all of that when he needed to spend that research time helping his father with cancer and oil. And next thing you know, he's got his own company, and that's what he's doing. So I love the way we all our communities, you see, gets put to these positions through, you know, championing through shitty stuff and coming from a good place, and it makes a difference at the end of the day. And I think that's why these generosity gifts that you speak of take place. You know, I really do. It's happened way too much with this field than almost anything else I can think of to think of it as an anomaly. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember my brother saying once that cannabis was the original multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah, try it now, and I'll give you some more later. Yeah, that's incredible. So, let's see what else I wanted to mention to you, because we are trying to plug, you know, this show, and we're also plugging the Hemp and Cannabis Expo.
We need everybody to really share it a lot.
Yeah,
too.
Sure. Pass the joint is also
pass the joint. Absolutely.
Yeah, pass the information. So what else should we talk to before we have to get it going pretty shortly? But I just wanted to make sure that we had everybody's attention with this patron.podbean.com/greencrushpod. And we plan, we hope to bring more quality content forward. Paul and I were also discussing a few months ago, there was some interest in Paul and I doing some filmed content, video content. Paul's very funny, and so we would like to get together and shoot some stuff. And then again, it came down to money and access, and we weren't really able to shoot anything. So we do have lots of ideas, and we do have lots of ways to present this stuff for you, but we are going to need some help. So I've been riding that horse pretty hard this show. Maybe mention it a couple more times in the subsequent few, but hey, man, we're just trying to save your life. How bad is that, right? just trying to change some things for you, make you feel a little bit better. And so King Clone, King Clone is the product that we know. We have a great product. Like a clone is a clone, right? It's coming off another plant, and we know that other plant is great, and that Ernie is on top of things. So this is quality stuff. What can you expect, Paul? What would you expect someone to do, like, who doesn't really know anything? Like, does it make sense to come in and go, okay, I love what you got here. Give me enough lights to do like 6 plants or 10 plants or something like that. How much hit the ground running study and learning do you need to do? Because like you said, you mess it up at the beginning, you make mistakes. What's the best little info pack to sort of start you up and not have you wrapped up in tears and dealing with spider mites and what have you?
Well, one of the things you'll see when you go to like King Clone's site is they have created a whole system, including organic soil mixes and organic fertilizers and everything you need, right from the get-go. California engineered and award-winning. King Clone is one. You'll see they've won lots of awards. They've been on the cover of High Times twice on special editions. So they really engineered the quality of what they were doing to give the home grower the best results. And they do absolutely. They get the highest indoor yield I've ever heard of anybody getting. And if getting 4 pounds and 4 cubic feet is pretty crazy. That is. That's a massive yield, and they really have developed some real skills. And the amazing thing is that most of the people who work at the one factory are relatives of his. They're all Bin Tang is from Vietnam, and his family came over after the Vietnam War, and his father brought 300 refugees with him that were his employees, family, and friends. And they created this, Ben was an engineer in Silicon Valley, and when he got ill, he just kind of changed his direction, had some startup money, and he's got a family that are serious plant people,
Yeah, that's a serious plant people. That sounds like a good idea to be. Well, that's pretty incredible, really, when you think about it, because now they'd be getting turned away at the border if they try to do that. Coming from a different country.
Well, and that's why coming to Canada is so important for them, because it gives them the opportunity to expand to the rest of the world from here, because we can ship, right?
Yeah.
And we've been having stuff come from Europe. For when Bedrocan first started, they were the Dutch owned them, so we had stuff coming from Europe to here.
Yeah. Back in what year is that again? 70 or 80?
Jeez, I don't know. It'd be in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
But home growing is one of those things where they try to give you as much of an education in the process by the packaging and how they set up the use of their formulas. And a lot of the companies do that. But it really starts with basically good dirt, and that's what they use as a foundation too.
Yeah.
So you can buy their soil products and you get off to the right start right off the bat, and their plants are conditioned to a lot of these things they're using. So you get it and it's going the max it can be going when you get it. It's always the best plant, right?
Okay. Well, I've got one more segment I need to do before we go, but before we go, I did want to ask you, and this is a basic question. Again, I'm asking this because I don't know, but I figure a lot of people that are coming around to this topic also don't know. Maybe everybody else is smarter than me on this topic, but it's possible. You're just talking about the dirts and the nutrients in the dirt, to go into the plant and et cetera. So how does that compare with hydroponics? Why do people want to do that? Is it possible to get those same kinds of nutrients into a hydroponic? And if so, isn't that just all like liquid chemicals going into water? Like, are there pluses and minuses there? I know you can do one thing about hydroponics, you can get more in per square footage because there's no dirt. But aside from that.
Well, hydroponics is chemically driven for the most part. Aquaponics is different in that you're using fish in big tanks to create your fertilizer, and you're pumping that through the system. So that's a form of organic, pseudo-organic treatment. Yes, and you're using petrochemicals if you're growing on rock wool or the volcanic rock or any of those things. And they've gotten the chemicals now in a lot of these popular brands that people are using down to the point where I'll give you Emerald Harvest is a big one from California. And when we were at LIFT, they were giving away cases of fertilizer and stuff. And they are, you can't call them organic because they use some things that the use is not banned but restricted. That is, you shouldn't use it too often, but it's not really bad because it's mined. It's considered organic, right?
Yeah.
So it's about how you apply those chemicals and how you finish the plant. You don't want to have the taste of phosphate in your bud at the end because you overfed it, right? You want the plant to use up all the nutrients and pale out at the end, and the leaves yellow and turn purple and things like that. And those are indications that you've used up all the fertilizer, and the plant has expanded its tissue to its fullest point based on the nutrients it had, which translates into a flavorful flavor signature because it doesn't have the chemical taste in it. Phosphates will coat your tongue, and you'll actually feel weird polarization.
Oh, wow.
It's like an electric current running across your tongue, and too much nitrogen makes it bitter, because it makes it very chlorophyll rich, and
you're a walking encyclopedia. It's really amazing to sit here and listen to you go, because you're one of these kind of guys where, you lost me there for 10 seconds earlier. I said so. But when you go on a tear, I'm sitting there on the one hand going, I kind of don't really know what he means, so I can't, I have to very much focus. But then when you're done speaking, I did understand it, unless I ask you a question. But but I could never have come up with that myself. So
the old hippies who grow the best stuff in California always say that if it isn't in the ground when you start, it's not going to be available to the plant at the end.
Right.
So it's all about how you build your hole and what you put in it and how you plan the use of the life of the plant's ability to use what's in that hole. You want the nitrogen to start to run out in the middle of August,
Yeah.
and so that your bud doesn't produce a lot of leaf then, right?
Wow.
And but that's got to be a close balance too. And always, calcium is the super hardest thing to get into anything, into people, into plants.
Oh, tell that to my Aunt Dolores. She knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So those are things that, a lot of problems start with calcium in people and in plants. Hot peppers get a wrinkly leaf if you don't add bone meal like almost every other week to the soil. And as soon as you start doing that, the calcium in it makes the leaf smooth out. Calcium is the same thing for cannabis. And what I always recommend is use 3 kinds of calcium. Use bone meal, use gypsum, use dolomite lime. They all break down at different rates, and the plant always has a selection of calcium that it can adapt to based on its genetic makeup, right?
Wow. All this information and more can be yours, and you should take advantage of it. Come down and see Paul and myself September 15, 16, Hemp and Cannabis Expo in Toronto. And we will be speaking. We both have lots of things to say. I'll be telling you all kinds of the basic ethos and package of this show. Lots of people don't know what it is, so I'll be there giving that information. And Paul and I have different stories, but they're both the same in that we both flattened cancer using this allegedly horrible substance that grows out of the ground.
I'm going to tell jokes.
And you're going to tell jokes. Well, yeah. You should do.
I'm going to tell cannabis jokes.
Sometimes when you tell cannabis jokes to cannabis users, they appreciate them greatly by smiling at you.
It depends on if they're in a trance or not, I noticed.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to wrap up this episode here, Paul. So I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll talk to you soon, right? I'll be seeing you this week.
Love you, brother. See you soon.
Love you too. That's Paul.
Bye, everybody. Share the links.
Share the links. Share the joint. Pass the joint.
Pass the joint. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul. Take care, man. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
That's Paul Hartmann, everybody, and we're getting ready to wrap things up here on this particular episode. But just before we do, I thought it might be a good idea to talk to someone else, and I'm not exactly sure if they are if they're on the line right now or not. I'm going to find out by calling this person. So don't do that thing where you're able to discern the phone number and then harass this person. Okay. Don't do that. I'm making it so you can't really hear it because it's super important what this gentleman, I think it's a gentleman, might say. Hang on. And if we don't get anywhere with it, then oh, shoot, that's not it. Hang on. if we don't get anywhere with it, I'll tell you what it was all about. But I just want to see if I can summon this person. And I'm sure you'll be... Why do I keep screwing that up? I'm really confused with the phone lately. Because I guess probably I'm not using it anymore. I think my phone skills have gone the way of my cursive skills. But let's see. That ought to do it. Okay. So, here we go. If we don't get anywhere with this, I'll just explain to you what it was. And we had a person in a small town.
Hello.
Hello there. I'm calling not in anger, but out of curiosity. I understand you have had a billboard in your small city in Canada. Is that right? And
Yes,
I'm calling the number on the board, so hopefully this is not considered any kind of harassment. But basically, you had a board up there with some. You say God says no to homosexuality and abortion, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about. I see here you've got Bibles back in the schools. Let the Bible be the teacher. That's a very important message from you. And also marijuana or peace with God. You got the Bible's one written in red. The marijuana or peace with God is written in green. And so I'm calling to ask, because at the bottom of this billboard, it says a ship without a rudder is tossed to and fro. So I just wanted to get your take. You've got 3 different messages on there. God says no to homosexuality and abortion. The other message, that's in blue. Then in red, it says Bibles back in schools. Let the Bible be your teacher. And then in green, it says marijuana or peace with God. These are 3 different messages, and I'm a little confused by what you're trying to get across. And I was wondering if you could share that with me.
Take your pick on any one of them, and we'll go through it. But
okay, Bibles back in schools. Let the Bible be your teacher. How long have they not been in schools? Like a long time, right?
I would say, let's see, 82. Oh man, putting her 40 years. No.
40 years,
65.
long time, decades. Okay.
40 years. Yeah.
Okay, so
Where are you from?
I'm from Toronto. My name is Alan. I'm just down the road here. Now, did the sign get taken down?
Sign is down.
And why was that?
Because the farmer who owned the property, people were starting to blame him for putting the sign up.
Oh, I see.
And they were his neighbors, or not maybe his neighbors, but he has a farm there, and we were down talking to him today, and he said people were stopping and just harassing him.
They're harassing him, yeah. Because are they saying that it feels like it's hate speech or something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing that I wanted to ask you about was if we're going to get the Bibles back in the schools, and that's you've got a new premier now. Maybe he's going to do that because they certainly haven't had them in there for a long time. But the other point here is that you say marijuana or peace with God. Now, can you talk about that one a bit? And we'll get to the homosexuality one later. But can you talk about the marijuana or peace with God? So you're saying there's a difference between the two?
Yes. Once we get into medical marijuana, we take medical marijuana for a mental condition. And if you are taking medication in the form of marijuana, and you are continuing to be depressed or whatever the problem is, then you're entitled or kind of leading in the direction of taking more. Eventually it gets to the point where it is harmful, and we're paying for it.
Okay, well, may I ask you a question? I mean, I have some certain medical needs. Are you a person that uses any kind of medication whatsoever yourself? High blood pressure or, cholesterol or heart pills, anything?
Once in a while I take high blood pressure pill.
Oh, and you don't find that to be a crutch at all? You don't find that to be an artificial assistant whatsoever?
I'll tell you what it is. It's a cinnamon capsule.
Oh, cinnamon.
You can buy it in the drugs or the grocery store.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Well, let me ask you this then, because we were talking about Bibles coming back into the schools.
Sure.
And we're also talking, but there's a particular phrase in the Bible that really fascinates me, and it's in the first page. So if you have a copy handy, you probably do. And if you're listening to me in a hotel room, you probably have a copy handy as well. Right in the desk there. Just open it up underneath the lamp and the phone. But if you go to chapter Genesis 1:11, yeah. So when you get to this chapter 11, verse 11, where it says, "And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed," which by its very definition, by the way, is the cannabis plant as well, "and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind. And God saw that it was so, whose seed was in itself and upon the earth, and it was so. And then the earth brought forth the grass, and the herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself and after his kind. And God said that it was good." So I'm just curious why God would make this plant and put it everywhere. And it's available because he brought it. A lot of people say the world is the devil's world now, but we go back to the beginning in Genesis. We understand that it was God that they're saying in the book is the one who summoned the herb-yielding seed and then brought it into creation. So I'm just wondering how it is that marijuana or peace with God are two different things, when clearly to me on page 1 of this manual here, it says that they are indeed, that this cannabis is a product of this maker. So I just wonder how you answer that kind of point.
That's true. He made everything. God created the heavens and the earth, man, and animals and plants and fish and birds.
Right.
The whole shebang.
Sure, but I'm not eating fish to get high. I'm asking you why it is, or God, when you're talking about a thing that God envisioned, according to the Bible here, God envisioned needing this thing. It turns out it does actually have nutritional properties that without which we don't get to advance as much. You sound like you're advanced in years. You must know a long time ago that animals were eating hemp, and they were getting from the nutrients in hemp and cannabis the CBDs, which is the scientific property that guarantees or helps you maintain your body's health, okay? So when we took that out of the food chain 80 years ago, and then here's your cancer spiral over the last 80 years, and people are missing. It's almost like they legislated vitamin C out of legal access. So I don't know why it is where the science shows that this stuff is a food, that it helps create the balance of the body, and that in the Bible, according to the Bible, God decided we needed it, and God decided to bring it forth, and then God complimented himself by saying it was a good thing that it happened. So I don't understand why a person who's only a human being can put up a sign that says they're completely different. How is that anyway? Oh, now I'm just curious why that would even come to your mind, that it's an either-or proposition.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've just learned why I don't have guests on my show that counter my point of view. But thanks very much for putting up the sign, because it helps us understand that not everybody understands, but you've also taken it down. If you're going to put Bibles back in the school, which I think we should do anyway, just as a historical document, even for the folks that don't believe in it, I think we should turn right away to chapter 1, verses 11 and 12, and try to understand the discrepancy there.
Yep.
Well, thanks anyway for having your point of view. I'm sorry I was able to so easily put holes into it, but this is a food provided by the maker according to the Bible itself. So if a person who's living in a small town has got a problem with that, I really suggest you go back to the Bible and read it again. From the beginning.
That's cute.
It is cute. Yeah, well, you weren't able to give me any kind of counter. Like, you still haven't been able to answer why you would put marijuana or peace with God when God invented marijuana. No, it says you're arguing with the Bible now?
Not going to comment on it, or I could comment on it. Have you ever heard of dandelions?
Sure, yes, I have. Dandelions.
Dandelions can be medicinal.
I'm sorry, dandelions what?
Can be medicinal.
Yes, they can, but that doesn't explain why cannabis is or God. There's lots of medicinal plants. There are a bevy of medicinal plants. You're absolutely right about that. There are tons of them. It just happens to be that cannabis is also one of those plants. God decided, according to this book, God decided, gee whiz, we need some of this stuff. I'll make it. Hey, it's good. And now we've got a fella down the road telling us that it's bad. I just thought you might have an opportunity to clear that up.
That is funny.
It is funny, isn't it? Well, thanks for the sign. I really appreciate you taking a stab at trying to play the game. And hopefully, again, do a little research before
when marijuana becomes addictive and they start to say, "Oh, we made a mistake," then you'll understand. You have a good day.
Well, do you not drink alcohol? It's the same thing, right? Yeah. Oh, what a fella. Okay, so anyway, hey, listen, I wasn't going to say his name. I'm so glad he answered the phone, though, because I was going to have to, explain the story to you if he wasn't there. But there you go. The CBC has seen the wisdom of taking a story of one man who put up one sign that had 3 little messages on it. And they were contentious messages. God says no to homosexuality and abortion. So you got 2 people right there upset. Anybody who is gay and anybody that says or thinks they want an abortion. Then you got the Bible's back in school. Of course, atheists and non-believers in Christianity don't want that. And then marijuana or peace with God. And this guy can't even tell us. Well, God put dandelions are good for you. That's a great argument. I wasn't sitting here shitting all over dandelions, okay? I was just saying, you have a problem, sir. And I don't know how much money this guy spent on a billboard. But a ship without a rudder is tossed to and fro, and a man without a clue wastes money on billboards that don't tell you anything you need to know. So that's, some people wanted to burn it down and whatever, but I just wanted to hear what this old feller had to say about it. And I also wanted to point out that the CBC has gone out of their way to tell us this piece of news. So obviously at the editorial desk, someone decided it was important that an old man who doesn't really have his messages together needed to put this sign up there. I guess the CBC's looking for stories, right? Is that the thing where they needed to go to some old guy who's got a notion of a couple of contentious things? I mean, he sounded like a sweet old guy, probably nice to have dinner with, but his mindset is from a long time ago. So it's important to have that story. I might ask the CBC, and I have already done so, if it's possible, if that's interesting enough, if that's an interesting story that we need to get out into the world, that an old man has some old ideas and put a sign up about cannabis and the Bible and et cetera, and homosexuality and abortion, why wouldn't the CBC talk to one of their 10, 12 years off and on doing radio shows, television shows, introducing things, world's smartest person contest, whatever the hell, with what's his name, George Stroumboulopoulos, and I was deeply involved in the building for a long time, and still it's not interesting enough to maybe take me out for an interview and ask me, wait a second, you used to be on this show, and then you claim you got this stage 4 disease, and then you claim you use cannabis to get out of it, and then you've been talking about it for a year, having people come on and trying to invite and have people on the show who are going to talk about the cannabis scene in that's now coming to Canada in this new wave, whether you're for it and against it, everything. And then no, that's not interesting enough. And then you took down the premier of the province. There's no story there for me. It's way more interesting and way more newsworthy to have an old guy clinging to a Bible who's afraid of gay people, saying the world's going to end as soon as cannabis becomes addictive. If it's addictive, it's already addictive. It's not going to become addictive. But then again, that explains why I don't work at the news department of a major news organization such as this one we have unleashed upon ourselves here. So, got that out of the way. Yeah, they must be stopped, and we've been trying to do that here. So hey, listen, we're gonna get out of here. It's been Green Crush. It's been fun to be here. I hope you get back to us with some help. Once again, real quick, patreon.podbean.com/greencrushpod. We will be taking any kind of help you can offer us. Come see us September 15, 16 at the old Expo, the Hempfest Cannabis Expo. It's going to be great. We're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to love it. And I'm also hoping that we can continue with this little plan of ours to give you more information, help you make the choices, set you up with what you need to make sure your health stays where it needs to be. And a lot of times you don't necessarily need pharma for that. So look into cannabis. Understand young people are getting it, like Emma. Some older people aren't. Like this gentleman who's counterpositioned to tell me that cannabis is not good is that dandelions are okay. Yeah, dandelions are okay. It's not going to do what cannabis does. But this old gentleman has a beef with his own God. Isn't that sad? All right. Well, we will come back to you next week. We'll be here for the next few weeks at least while we try to pull out all the stops. And continue with our lives. Thanks very much.